Hello. Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this talk, which is part of the Global Teaching Fellows.
Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you.
Oops, I'm sorry for the echo. This talk is part of the Global Teaching Fellows Graduation Lecture Series 2021 of Delta Analytics. Delta Analytics is a nonprofit that's run entirely by volunteers, and the mission is to make machine learning more accessible at a global scale and to support community leaders all over the world. So today I'm very happy to introduce Gideon, with whom I had the pleasure to work with this year. Gideon recently graduated from the University of Port Harcourt, Nigeria, in environmental microbiology, and he loves teaching, and he co-founded the AI Saturdays Port Harcourt, which is a community for people to share their knowledge, teach, and learn more about machine learning. And besides all these activities, Gideon was part of the Delta Analytics Global Teaching Fellows this year, and he will be presenting the lecture he developed at Delta. So Gideon, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this live section for my graduation lecture. Today, I'll be presenting on time series forecasting, and we'll be looking at air quality monitoring in Port Harcourt. Like Melisanda introduced me, my name is Gideon, and I'm currently leading an AI community here in Port Harcourt, Nigeria. So here the agenda we'll be looking at today. We'll start by talking about air quality and air pollution measurements in Port Harcourt, and we'll also move into talking about how can use time series forecasting to work with this data. And we'll also look at modeling where we use various types of model. So with that, let's kick start. Before we jump right in, a quick overview. So this is for you. Do you feel the city or community where you live now has good air quality? You can use the comments section to let me know. Okay. Okay. So over here, I don't think so. We'll be talking about air quality, and we'll try to understand what air quality is. So what is air quality? Air quality is a measure of how clean or polluted the air we breathe is. So monitoring the air is very important, because when they become polluted, they can be very harmful to our health and also to the environment. So one of the most dangerous pollutants that we'll be looking at today is the particulate matter 2.5, also known as the PM 2.5. And what is this PM 2.5 and why are they harmful? So from the image you can see here, this is an image of a human hair. And you can see how tiny this particulate matter is compared to the human hair. So with this, you can see that this is something we cannot see with our naked eye. So they have about 2.5 micron or less in diameter in terms of size, and they are in the air that we breathe. So currently they come from various sources, including power plants, motor vehicles, and even solid waste burning in the environment. Globally, this particulate matter, or PM 2.5, is rising rapidly. Most people are exposed to these harmful pollutants. Currently, the highest exposure is occurring in Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. And there is a threshold that was provided by the World Health Organization around 10 microgram per meter cube. And currently, 92% of the world's population are living in areas that exceed this guideline. So coming to Nigeria, from a recent data, Nigeria is currently considered unsafe. An annual mean of around 70 microgram per meter cube was recorded, and this exceeds the recommended maximum from the World Health Organization. So looking into this issue, I believe that Nigeria, as a developing country, should be able to develop the economy with a little impact to our environment and also the human health. So bringing this down to Port Harcourt here in Nigeria. So these are some images that was taken here in Port Harcourt, and you can see how harmful these pollutants can be, and you can see the effects it could have on these school children in the image. So this is actually an example of a city where so many economic developments is going on, but they are also impacting the human health. So we need ways to address this for our future. So also coming down here in Port Harcourt, looking at the causes of air pollution, I think in terms of here in the city, transportation vehicles are like the main source, because most of these vehicles move around the city and around areas where people reside. Also have solid waste burning. Also have pollutants from electric generator. Almost all households and businesses use electric generators in case of days when the power is unstable. And also looking at the artisanal oil refining. This is actually the illegal refining of crude, and this is happening in some parts of the state. And this is actually a major cause of air pollution also. So a very quick question for you guys. Kindly share in the chat section at least one cause of air pollution you've witnessed in your city or community. Okay. Vehicles. Okay. Cars. Cars. Yeah. Like I said earlier, from most of the responses here, I can see that vehicles and cars are like top of the list, and this is also like the top pollutants here in the cities. We also have ones from factories and wildfire, like I can see in the comment section. Moving ahead, we are going to be looking at an action step that can or should be taken in terms of solving the problem of air pollution, and that's where we'll be looking at monitoring air quality. So when we try to hold individuals and governments or even organizations accountable due to air pollution, and we don't have any evidence to back it up, it might be something that won't work. So I believe that installing sensors can help us monitor air quality and understand the various sources of emission. So the data we get from these sensors can help us make informed decisions and better policies towards reducing this pollution in our city. So a very major challenge in terms of monitoring air quality. So currently here in Nigeria, there is a very low amount of air quality data. And this is definitely because of the low amount of air monitoring sensors that are available in the country. So from the image I have here, you can see that the population of Nigeria is currently five times bigger than the size of California. And from what we have currently through the Purple Air map, only 8 Purple Air sensors are in the whole country here in Nigeria, and there are over 500 currently installed in California. So another major challenge in terms of installing these sensors also include expenses to purchase and install, and also fear of theft in terms of a situation where there is not enough security. Also lack of steady electricity because the sensor needs 24/7 power to stay live. Also, lack of steady Wi-Fi can be a challenge, and then commitments to monitoring it. So there was a major breakthrough, and this year is a major breakthrough for me. So I successfully installed the first ever Purple Air sensor in Port Harcourt, and this is sensor number 8 in Nigeria. So currently now the data is made public, and it's live on the Purple Air map, and it's available for anyone to use. So this is the area where this sensor was installed. This was also put into consideration. So I chose the D-line in Port Harcourt here for the sensor, considering a place with a regular power supply for the uptime of the sensor, and also Wi-Fi for the connection. And also considering that this location is like a central location in the metro area of Port Harcourt, and it currently serves both residential and business operations. And there is also a major tech hub that's currently located here. Like I said earlier, the sensor is live, and it's currently collecting data and transmitting to the Purple Air map, and you can access it there at any time. So here are some of the data that is being collected by these Purple Air sensors, and you can see the particulate matter 2.5 also there. So these are data that are currently being collected by the sensor, and you can also access them on the Purple Air map. So here is a data sample from the particulate matter 2.5 on the 10th of August, and from the 24-hour mean concentration of this pollutant on that day, I observed a 59 microgram per meter cube concentration, and this actually exceeds the recommended maximum of 10 microgram per meter cube. So from the plot here, you can see the 24-hour mean, and you can see where the recommended maximum is by the red line, and you can see how far it is from what was recommended by the WHO. So looking at what we can do in terms of solving the problem of air pollution, I was inspired to create a pollution forecast system so that my community and my city can take action. So I believe that with a forecasting system, our governments can limit cars that can drive in the city, or even ask companies to reduce some of their operations. And also parents can know when to keep their children indoors, or the best location to enroll them in school. Individuals also can decide to cancel outdoor sports or activities or events regarding the forecast for the day or the days to come. So here, I believe that time series forecasting is a very wonderful tool that we can use to build this solution. So with that, we are going to be going into the next segment of this presentation, where we'll be talking about time series forecasting and understanding the various concepts involved. So what is time series forecasting? So time series forecasting is a process where we analyze time series data using statistics and modeling techniques to make prediction of a future event. And this time series data comes as a sequence of data points that is indexed in time order. So time series data allows us to analyze major patterns in our data, such as trends, seasonality, and so on, which we'll be looking at as we progress. So currently, there are many fields of application in terms of time series forecasting. We can see this technique being utilized in weather forecasting, climate, economics, in healthcare, finance, retail, business, and so on. So bringing us back to our goal for this presentation. So the goal here is to try to solve the problem of air pollution in Port Harcourt using a data-driven approach. So time series forecasting will make it possible for us to create a pollution forecast so that the city can take proper actions. So the challenges I faced working on this project, like I said earlier, one of them was a lack of data for Nigeria and especially for Port Harcourt in terms of air quality data, and then data fluency. Before now, I don't have prior experience reading and analyzing time series data, but through a major breakthrough, I was able to quickly learn how to work with sensor data with help from my coach, Melisande. And now the goal here, like I said, is to work on this time series, teach others how to read and analyze this time series data and help them understand it better. So analyzing time series can be a lot easier. What we just need to do is understand how to read the various patterns in time series data. And talking about the various patterns in time series data, this takes us to where we'll talk about the various patterns we can find in our time series data. And here we have the trends. So in our time series data, trends are common patterns that we see often. And from the plots here, you can see an upward trend, which signify that the trend is going upward. We also have downward trend, so it goes either way. So the next common pattern we also see in our time series data is seasonality. So in seasonality, we will see the high and low occurrence in our time series data, which are known as the peaks and the troughs. So these are regular patterns of flow made of the seasonality, where we have these peaks and troughs. Another common pattern in that we see in time series data is trend and seasonality. So this is a combination of the trend and the seasonality. So here we have a plot of a time series data with seasonality and upward trend. So this is a very important pattern also that we experience in our time series data. So another pattern that most times is likely to be ignored is the noise, also known as white noise. So they are also often present in the our time series data. When we analyze, it's likely to be found there also. So with that, we can combine the three patterns so far, where we have trends, seasonality, and noise. So looking at this, we can see a time series plot with a upward trend, a seasonality, and also some white noise in it. So with that, I will have a quick check for understanding for you. So in the chat section, please kindly indicate the type of pattern you can find in these plots from Dow Jones Industrial Average. So is this an example of seasonality, a time series with a downward or upward trend? So in the chart section, you can indicate. Okay. Okay, upward trend. Okay. Yes. Yeah, it's certainly an upward trend. That's very correct. So from this plot here, we can see there is an upward trend in terms of this stock price here from Dow Jones. So with that, I will move over to the next check. This is the temperature measurements are gotten from the purple air sensor here in Port Harcourt in the months of August and September. So from this plot, do you see peaks or troughs, or do you see upward or downward trend? So in the chart section, kindly indicate which pattern you can see in this time series plot. Okay. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So yes. So the correct answer is the peaks and troughs. So from this time series data here, there are peaks and troughs from this temperature data, which also signify the areas where there are low and high temperature in terms of day and night. So yeah, peaks and troughs is the correct answer. So we are going to be moving into a very exciting segment where we'll try to go through some simple method using time series forecasting. And with that, we are going to be looking at the naive forecasting method. So talking about the naive forecasting method, when we use this, we forecast that a period in our time series data will be the same as the previous period. So what this signifies is that here we try to say that tomorrow will be the same thing as today. So that's how this method works. So from the name naive, from the plot here also, you will see how closely how close the forecast is to the time series data. So that's how the naive forecasting works, trying to say that tomorrow will be the same as today. And using the naive forecasting, we mostly use it when we don't have enough data to create a predictive model. So the naive forecasting method can help us supplement forecasting for a near future. But then when there are bigger changes, possibilities are that it can perform poorly. So another important time series forecasting method is the moving average. So unlike the naive forecasting where a period is used to predict the next period, here a moving average captures the average change in their data series over time. So here we're trying to say that, for example, tomorrow will be the same as the average of the past 7 days. So here we forecast that the period will be the same as the average of the previous periods. So, but with this, this looks like it's performed worse than the naive forecasting in terms of fitting to our time series data. And this is coming from an assumed stationarity of our data, where we assume that our time series data is stationary. And with that, we are going to be moving to a very important part of working with time series data, known as stationarity. So when we talk about stationarity of time series data, So stationary time series data does not depend on the time at which the series is observed. And from here, it's actually saying that the statistical properties do not change over time. And this include mean, variance, and so on. And also, there is no seasonal effects or trends in the time series data. So when we have a time series data that is stationary, it can be a lot easier to model. And talking about stationarity, a very important thing to note, stationarity does not mean that the time series data does not change over time. It's just that the way it changes does not itself change over time. So, for example, if we are using past data to predict future data, it should be assumed that the data will follow the same trend and pattern from the past. So we want distribution of time series data to depend only on the difference in time, not the location in time. And time series stationarity being very important. Why should we care? Why should we correct our time series data when it's non-stationary? So we can correct and transform our time series data to make them stationary because that will make them fit to be modeled. But when we do not correct this non-stationarity in our data, the variance of our time series data can be misspecified. That is, it can provide an incorrect description of our data, which will suddenly lead to a highly inaccurate forecast. And also, we can experience bad fitting of our model. And most importantly, the time-dependent nature of our time series data might not be utilized. And this is the moving average from what we plotted before, but this time around with a stationary time series data. So what we did was we took that time series data and removed the trend and seasonality through a process known as differencing. So there we try to use differencing to take different a difference in terms of the past step and the present step. So from there, we're able to build a model with that difference data set, which has no trend and seasonality. And doing the final forecast, like the plots here, we then add back that model to the original one. So with this, you can see that this plot here, the forecast fitting better than the previous one to our time series data. Another segment we are going to be looking at is exploring the data sets from collected from the Purple Air sensor here in Port Harcourt. So this is a plot for the months of August and September in terms of particulate matter 2.5. And from what we've discussed previously on stationarity, so we can also try to check for stationarity in this time series plot, time series data from the Purple Air sensor for PM 2.5. And here we utilize the Kufula test. This is a test statistics that was created by David Dickey and Wayne Fuller in 1979. And they created this test to make it possible to determine unit roots in our time series data to be able to know if they are stationary or non-stationary. So it utilizes the null hypothesis. So this null hypothesis is like a default saying that our time series data is not stationary. So we can now, through this check to see if our time series data is stationary. So from the statistics, when the test that we get is less than the critical value, which is the point beyond where we reject this null hypothesis, we can see that our time series data is stationary, thereby nullifying that hypothesis. But in the case where our test from the statistics is greater than these critical value points, we can say that our time series is non-stationary. And also, it's also important to have a p-value that is not more than greater than 0.05. P-value is a probability value that is being obtained in terms of the A-stream in the results that is being observed in our time series data. So one important way we can use to make our time series data stationary is differencing. So when we try to difference our time series data, we can make our time series data stationary. So when we compute differences, we try to compute the difference between consecutive observation. And using this differencing, it can help us stabilize the mean of our time series data by removing so many changes in the level of this time series data, which can also be said to remove or reduce trends and seasonality. So before I continue, I have a very quick check of understanding. So considering what we've talked earlier about mean and variance and also stationarity of time series data, in the chat section, kindly say if this time series data here is a stationary one or a non-stationary one. Okay. 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 Yeah, correct. All right. Okay. So yeah. Yeah, correct. Yeah, that's very correct. Yeah. Okay. So very correct. These time series in this plot, it's a non-stationary time series data. So here you can see that this time series data does not maintain a constant mean. So that's a situation where we are seeing a trend, particularly a downward trend in this time series plot here. So this is non-stationary. So I'm looking at this other one also. So from these plots here, do you think this time series plot is stationary or non-stationary? Sorry. Yes. Yes. Yes, correct. Yes, that was correct. Yes. Okay, that's perfect. So this time series plot here is non-stationary. Sorry, it's stationary. So from here we can see that this time series plot has a constant mean. Exactly, someone commented a mean around 0. So it has a constant mean and also a constant variance. So this time series plot is stationary. Thank you for that. So moving into the next segment, we are going to be looking at modeling. So We've talked about air quality monitoring and how can use some simple forecasting techniques to also try to work on data collected from the sensors. Now, looking at modeling, so what is a model? So a model represents a shape of data in a way that provides insight to the current data points that we use to predict future data points. So when we have good models, it helps us understand patterns in past events and also help us forecast or predict future events. So to do forecasting with our the data collected from our monitoring sensors, we need to find a good model that can help us make this time series data useful in terms of predicting future pollution around the city. So a very quick introduction to modeling. I will use the linear regression model. So basically talking about a linear model. So we can use data from the past to tell us what we can expect in the future. So in terms of the linear regression or the linear model, it can help us predict the next time step by showing us a pattern to follow. So here is a data from the growth of a baby. And here we are trying to forecast or predict how tall this baby will be at the next time step. So looking at this plot here, we can see that the model was able to forecast this next time step accurately. And also the model has good fit to the data. And this is actually something that is showing us a lot of accuracy from the linear regression model. But there is a little issue. So when we are working with real life data never fits our model perfectly. So there is always error between our model and the real life data. So in this case, for here, you can see that the linear model has error and didn't make a perfect prediction. But that doesn't mean that the model performed worse. We can still see that generally this model describes the data's trend correctly. What I mean is that from what we have here in the plot, you can still see that the younger is shorter and the older is taller. So with real life data, it's not always so easy to find a model or line with good fits. So from what we have here, this is the PM 2.5 plots from our data collected from the purple air sensor. So we can see that the time series, the linear model performed bad. So we have a bad model here. So we need to find a model that can help us forecast the next time step when the data pattern we have or time series data is complex. So the best way is to find a different modeling strategy that we can use, and that will take us to a very important model in time series forecasting known as the Arima model. But before that, let's have a quick check for understanding. I need you to also comment on the chart section from the plot here. Which of the model do you think has a good fit to its data, A or B? Okay. Okay, that's correct. Okay. Yes. Very correct. Someone said baby. Okay. So from what I will have here, B actually has the best fit with data. From what we have in plot A, we have a complex time series data there, and you can see that we're not able to achieve a good fit for our data using linear regression. And now we are going to be talking of the Arima model and see how it can help us work with complex data in terms of time series forecasting. So what are Arima models? So these Arima models stand for autoregressive integrated moving average. So simple time series model which we can use to train and then forecast future time points with Arima. And with this Arima model, we can also capture complex relationship that takes error terms and also observation of past values, which we'll be looking into as we progress. So three important components that is included in this Arima model are the number of autoregressive term, which is the order P, and the number of the integrated terms, the order D, and also the number of the moving average terms of the order Q, which I will be exploring as we go further. So talking about the autoregressive model, which is comprises of the order P in the Arima model. This model of this order P forecast time series based solely on past values. So an autoregressive model basically depends on time steps from the past. So it uses this observation from various previous time steps as its input to have a regression equation to predict the value at the next time step. So the term autoregression it indicates that a regression of the variable against itself. So it's something that you can use to actually understand these points also. So it's a term that indicates that it is a linear regression of itself. So when we are working with autoregressive model, we can utilize the first order in terms of this order of P, and we can also use more than one, which where we have a second order also, depending on the kind of time series data we have. So it doesn't stop there; it also goes ahead of that, apart from the first and second order. So another component very important is the integrated model, which is the order of D. So when we have seasonal patterns or trend in our time series, like I said earlier, it is considered non-stationary. So this integration model reduces seasonality from our time series data, thereby making it stationary. So Arima model have a way that it differences our time series data, where it eliminates this seasonality in the data. So using this order D property of the Arima model, which represents the degree of differencing, we can have the order D, where there is no differencing to be made, which shows that our time series data is stationary or doesn't have any trend. We can also have the order D at 1, where we perform differencing once, showing a linear trend. We can also have the order D, where it is 2, where we use a double differencing method, where we can also see that we have a quadratic trend at that point. So this is one way we can use to make our time series data stationary using the integrated model. So another component is the moving average model of the order Q. So a moving average in Arima model forecast time series based solely on past errors. So it uses past forecast errors in a regression-like model rather than using past value of forecast. So unlike the autoregression model, which is mostly concerned with past values, in moving average, what is concerned here is past errors. So in autoregression models, past values are considered. In moving average, past errors are what is concerned. So we also have situation where we can use the first order of this order of Q, which is the moving average, also the second order, depending on the time series data we're working on, and so on. So looking at a more complex model and also looking at what made the Arima model powerful is a situation where we combine the auto-regressive model and the moving average, where we have the order BQ. So looking at this, in addition to having a version of autoregressive model that takes past value, we also have a version that also takes past errors, which is the moving average. And the idea of this model, bringing these two models together, is to capture all forms of patterns in our time series data, including past time steps and also the forecast errors. So this is a plot that was done on autoregressive model with our PM2.5 time series data from our purple hair sensor. So here we try to model the autoregressive using the autoregressive model with a first order differencing. So recall that initially we've already difference this our time series data and made them stationary. So from what you can see here, you will see that we are leveraging the order P, which is the autoregressive component, where we have a first order also. And then for the integrated component and the moving average, we have 0. So this indicates that here we are utilizing the autoregressive model. Also, take note of the error that we recorded here and see the difference in terms of the next model. So this is where we use the moving average model in our time series data. So here we also utilize our time series data that already have a first order difference in which is already stationary. So here you can also see that we indicated that the order P, which is the autoregressive, was not utilized, it's at 0, and also that our time series data is already stationary, so we didn't apply any differencing using the integrated model. So what we use here is the moving average component. So you can see if you checked the previous error rate here, you can see that the moving average performed slightly better, but almost the same as the autoregressive model. But when we combine these two models together in terms of working with Arima model, so here we have we utilize the order P and the order Q, which are the autoregressive model and the moving average model, with our time series data that is already differenced and already stationary. So from the error that rates that we have here, you can see that this one performed much more better than these two previous components. So here you can see how powerful the Arima model is in terms of time series forecasting. And it's also important to note that before we try to use even a more complex model. So a very important step with Arima, there's some next steps we can take with Arima. So finding the best number of degree in terms of differencing to fit our data. So most times the first order differencing might not fit our data perfectly, so might need to use a second or even a third order differencing. But when you are doing that, beware of over differencing so that you don't over difference your time series data. Also, looking at Arima models evaluation. So when working with data to use Arima models, can also split the data set into training and testing sets, where we make predictions and store the predictions and also the actual observation. And then from there, we can calculate the error score for this prediction and compare it to what we are expecting. So using Arima model also, it helps us to understand the autocorrelation in the data. So talked about we're able to match the autoregressive components and the moving average components. So this Arima model helps us understand the autocorrelation that occurs in our time series data, where there is a measure of lagged or previous versions of our value over a variable that is related to the original version, original time step in our time series data. So with that, we'll take a major recap. So recall that we started off by talking about air pollution in Port Harcourt, and also we try to see how we're able to acquire and install a purple air sensor here in Port Harcourt. We also talked about data collection, how we are collecting this data and how it's been transmitted live to the purple air map. We also learn how to read and analyze this time series data. And the last but not the least, I learned to do some modeling with this time series data using some different simple forecasting method and most importantly, the Arima model. So looking forward, a major exploration that I will also be doing with this data is using the recurrent neural networks, LOSTMs, which is the long short-term memories. So the collaboratory notebook from this project will also be made available in the comments and chat section very soon after this presentation. So a future goal in terms of my own site. So I believe that I am very ready to make a forecasting mobile app very soon, utilizing data from this purple air sensor, and also looking at getting more sensors to be installed in the city here for better mapping of this pollution for the city here, especially being able to locate hotspots or risk areas in the city. So also working with NGOs on pollution and climate change issue is also one of the goals I have going forward. And so here I have a next step for you this time. So I would love for you to check out the sensor reading for Port Harcourt on the Purple Air map. This link will also be made available in the chat section after now. So there are also some resources that are also available to learn more about time series forecasting on how to work with time series data. So with that, I will pause for now and accept questions from the audience. So if you have any question, this is the time to bring them up. Thank you. So in case of any question, you can use the chat section. Can wave as well. Looking at from where we started on pollution in Port Harcourt, how we are trying to solve it. There's a sensor installation, collecting data, working with time series data, working with forecasting methods or modeling. So any of these, any parts you have any question, you can bring them up, and I will be glad to answer or give you the feedback on them. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I have a question here. So, will you be teaching what you learned in Port Harcourt? Yes. One of a major goal I have also working with this time series data is also to teach this topic around the community here, especially in the AI community, co-leading, which is AI Saturdays Port Harcourt. So I also have big plans to bring this topic to the classroom, and also bring others in terms of working with this time series data from the Purple Air sensor. Okay. So if there are no other question, if anyone is typing, it's still fine. I will take them, but I like to use this opportunity to thank everyone at Delta Analytics. They are actually sponsor of this presentation, and I also want to thank my fellow teaching fellows for this year. So I also want to specially thank Melissa for advocating for the Purple Air sensor, and also seeing that it's been installed perfectly here in Port Harcourt. I really appreciate everyone's efforts. So I have another question here, which is how would you describe your data experience? I think I have the opportunity to tell one or two persons here in Port Harcourt that data analytics is like the best thing that happened to me this year. So I had the opportunity to be mentored by the best people in the field of AI and machine learning, and also being able to meet and work with these fellow my fellow teaching persons for this year cohort. So I really learned a lot in the period of this program, and I really appreciate the efforts of everyone from Delta Analytics and the other global teaching fellows, and especially my coach, Melisande. I really want to thank her for enduring most of the awful experiences I had most times towards preparing for all of this, and also I really appreciate her efforts. So I also have another question here. So how do you get to know which areas in the city were most available for collecting data? Yeah, so like I said earlier when I started, so When I considered we had to install the first purple air sensor, I took so many things into consideration, starting from area that will help with the uptime of the sensor in terms of power supply and also Wi-Fi connection. And most importantly, I also try to check having this sensor installation as the first ever in Port Harcourt. I try to pick a location that is in the center of the metro area of Port Harcourt. So that is where I decided to I believe that was the best place to install the first sensor. Also having that the area is comprising of both residential and business operation at the moment. So I think with more time as we progress and with more data we collect, and also with more purple air installation that we'll have, we might also be able to dictate hotspots or risk areas that are most likely to be affected or that is most favorable for collecting data. Thank you for the question. So, any other question? If there is no other question, I would like to thank everyone again for making our time to attend this presentation. Okay, so I have another question. Air quality sensors are very expensive. How would you scale this across Nigeria? So the moment air quality sensors are not too expensive, but are not also likely to be purchased and installed by an average citizen. So it's something that I will need or require a lot of help, maybe from organizations or governments across the country. So talking about how this can, how I will be able to scale this across Nigeria. So like I said earlier, it's about understanding the various locations that are very like the risk areas or the hotspots around the country and consider those areas first. So I think all of this also falls back to the amount of data we collect over a period of time. So, but I believe that scaling this across Nigeria would be a whole lot easier if there are assistance from major organizations, industries, and what most importantly, governments in our city. Thank you. So you also that asked the question can also like reach out and also see how you can be part of the movement in terms of scaling this across Nigeria. I believe everybody should be involved, and you also can be involved in this mission of making our city safe, making our environment safe for everyone, and also providing a place we love so much. Okay. Okay, someone also talked about raising funds with students groups and schools. Yeah, exactly. I think this is also like a very important thing to note, and it can also be an investment for these students groups or schools because when these data are collected, it can also serve as research purposes of projects, which can also generate revenue for the school or the group or students groups in the long run. So it's something they can also do, and it's also something that they can benefit in the future. So I would like to also term that as an investment into the future at the same time making or providing a safe environment for everyone. So, any more question? I'll be glad to answer or give feedback. But if there are none, I thank everyone for making our time, like I said earlier, to be part of this presentation, and I really appreciate. And now I will be handing over to Melisande as I round up. So in case of any further question you have, you can also connect with me for question or feedback, and I'll also be glad to give you feedback as much as I can. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Gideon, for this amazing presentation. And thank you everyone for joining us today. Next week, we'll have our final graduation talk of the Global Teaching Fellows series of this year. So yeah, so thank you everyone, and we'll end the broadcast here.
Yeah, thank you everyone. I appreciate.